Welcome to another video series that I'm just starting now, and this shall be the pilot video, so you can really decide and create the style of it by yourself with your feedback. I will test this have a non-scripted video because I really want to reflect on my mind process when going through an opener. So I will show you all the openers I did for all jobs inside the power test videos. And we'll go through all the mechanics there, all the rotational ideas behind that, and show you how you can get to certain DPS values. And mentioning DPS values, I will put those numbers I reached inside the title, so please don't be fronted. The more people look up these videos, I think the better, because learning them and performing them in a similar way or close to that will definitely improve your playstyle if you are not close to anything like that, because most of them are the recommended balance recommended openers and rotations. So I think most of the theory behind it won't be misleading from my point. But of course I will also present some of my rotations, my openers that are not the same like the ones of the balance, but I will have another disclaimer video coming out in the next days, so you can see or you can understand what I'm thinking about that, and what I'm thinking about the whole topic of DPS optimization. But more to that later, and let us start with the Red Mage. First of all, the Red Mage is very important to have a cooldown here, a countdown here. If your tank doesn't do any countdown, it's really difficult to start it, because you really need acceleration. By the way, get familiar with all the spells, all the skills that you have with this job, because otherwise this video doesn't work. I'm not sure if I should display all the abilities again, but it would also distract from the focus of what I'm going to tell here. So please make yourself familiar with all these spells, maybe through looking up my job guides or just checking out your tooltip, your spell book. This is really helpful. Some people underestimate the helpfulness, the value of this spell book. Just read through all these skills and spells, because this will help you drastically in improving anything. Okay, so first of all, before starting the battle, there are two important things to consider and to prepare. First of them is to do this acceleration in advance. Acceleration, this will allow your next big Ver Arrow and Ver Thunder to cause the procs that you need to cast the Ver Stone and Ver Fire. This is very important, very, very important to line up this. It's kind of a perfect lining up opener. So this is the goal here is to get to the best value of mana that you can get in the less or the smallest amount of time. So by doing that, or the requirement to do that is to always start with acceleration before maybe 10 seconds. You can do this on 10 seconds as well, it's not a problem, but somewhere in between that 10 seconds to 15 seconds pre-pull timing. That is very important to get done your mana management, which is insanely important on the Red Mage opener. Then, let's go into it. I just slowed down the footage here, so you can really see the details. You now just wait until the countdown hits the 5-second mark. And this is where you start casting Ver Thunder. You can also do this with Ver Arrow, it doesn't really matter which one you choose first, but I always start with Ver Thunder. And the importance here is that you will guarantee having a proc of your Ver Stone or Ver Fire, as you can see here. And the trick with this opener is that you always let follow the other spell from the other element that is having this insanely long cast sequence. That is why you always need this countdown. You want to start with the big ones because they provide more mana than your Joel 2, and you need it. You really need it here because you proc both of these Ver Stone and Ver Fire in that process. Then afterwards, this is optional, like always. A potion, if you can afford it, use it. But I think for optimal DPS optimization, always throw in a potion here at this point. So you can see we start with 11 mana on each side, just with 2 spells. This is perfectly balanced right now, and yeah, opens up a very good spot for starting into the fight with mana. So yeah, throwing in the pot in the recast timer of these, and then start with either fire or stone, it doesn't matter. And now comes the most important thing. Let me just get back to that moment here. You always want to use the exact same category spell, which means if you're using the black mana spell, the Ver Fire in this time, you always want to use Ver Thunder afterwards, which is also black mana, because then you get to the point where you have 31 mana on one side, and by having the last proc here for from acceleration, you're able to just do that for the other side as well. Yeah, just weave in between those global recast timers, weave in your yeah, your buffs, and of course your flash. That will is perfectly fine in that spot, and this will perfectly line up with your raid mates and with all your synergy in the raid opener, and help your mates for getting out some burst and DPS, increase their DPS numbers. So yeah, use your buff there and start with flash, and then comes the second important thing. It's really fine-tuning on the opener here. But yeah, you're using Ver Stone now, and follow afterwards with Ver Arrow. So now you can see we have both sides filled up with 31 mana, and this is very important because now you just need one additional spell of these proc spells and you have one guaranteed, because of having acceleration used on the last Ver Thunder, for example. You can also switch that to Ver Arrow and Ver Stone, doesn't matter, but you have a guaranteed proc. And after that, using that proc, because this will definitely provide you 9 mana, and this is the least amount you need right now for not having another pair of spells delay up your bursting phase, your melee rotation, which you want to start in as soon as possible, as early as possible. So you're using the Ver Stone now, Ver Fire or Ver Stone, whatever is proc there, and then not choose the same element, big one element spell, the Ver Thunder or Ver Arrow, but the other one. So yeah, let's see what I'm doing there. Of course, using my ogcds as well, and then using Ver Fire and this lovely Ver Arrow that will hit us up onto that 40 mana mark, which is always the mana mark that you need to reach for getting into your melee rotation when having your magnification ready. So now you can see I have used my Contre Sixth and my displacement. You can also use the back jump, but according to the encounter you're dealing with, it's not so easy to use it. So yeah, don't be too aggressive on optimizing. It doesn't matter too much. Using displacement all the time doesn't hurt your overall DPS a lot. Of course, for really high-end optimization, you should always try to get that back jump, because it has a slight DPS advantage, but it's not a big deal. Okay, so we're doing that just because a magnification will erase or will cool down or remove the cooldown of displacement, and yeah, your gap closer. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that name right now, but yeah, your gap closer, this one here, it will be removed from the cooldown, and you want to have them on cooldown before using magnification. Otherwise, you would just waste one of these ogcds that are also yeah, a DPS advantage. So yeah, if you're not using the back jump, it's okay, but you should at least use those displacement, back jump, or the gap closer for DPS reasons, because of course they are very strong utilities, but they're also dealing a significant amount of damage if you're calculating that over the whole fight. Okay, now we're starting into magnification with having our pot running, with having our buff running, and yeah, this will allow us to really deal some damage right now and get into that burst very, very early on. And as you can see, our first global cooldown we used for a spell inside of combat was Ver Arrow, followed by Ver Stone, followed by Ver Thunder, which are 3, followed by Ver Stone and Ver Arrow, counting to 5. Then we have Ver Fire and Ver Arrow again, which are 7 GCDs inside the combat. And this is the fastest possible way of getting into your melee rotation. So you're not perfectly into that bursting window, but you're really at the end spot of it. So you get most of the buffs, you grab most of the buffs into that burst window, because your burst window is very quick. You're just having these insanely fast melee swings, followed by your big Verholy or Verflare and your big finisher there. So yeah, starting with magnification, which also improves and increases the damage of yourself and the party. Just yourself, sorry. Increase the damage of yourself. And as you can see, we're hitting up some very big numbers. You can also swing in the displacement here, the corp. This is the gap close, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can use that inside of the melee rotation if you think, yeah, using that opportunity window of being buffed by raid cooldowns and raid buffs. So starting this off and yeah, finishing with whatever element you're missing, or whatever element especially. This is more important than which side of mana you have less from. Yeah, using it where you don't have a proc, because even if you're not having the side of mana, which will always guarantee a proc of Ver Stone or Ver Fire, if you already have one of these procs, you just waste them. So even if you're not having for example, if the black mana in this case would be higher than the white mana, and you would have a Ver Stone proc already, then you should still try to get the proc from the other element, because it still has a 50% chance to proc there. So use Ver Flare or Ver Holy appropriately, and then finish that whole bursting sequence. So as you can see, it's really a nice damage in that opener. Finishing with Scorch. And we don't have a critical hit here right now, but it's still a good damage. Okay, so what do we do afterwards? I don't want to pause the video right now. Just try getting back into the mana balancing game, which is something I always recommend inside of my job guides. It's simple as it sounds. Just keep balancing up your mana so that you try to climb that mana gauge kinda balanced there, so that you don't have 70 black mana while having 30 white mana or something like that. And of course, by using your toolkits efficiently, just answer to the procs you get. If you, for example, now you're getting the Ver Fire proc, so you always want to answer this Ver Fire proc with the big Ver Arrow. And there's really a thing that you should always think about. I don't know why people don't look up their tooltips, but I guess some people don't, because you don't ever cast Ver Arrow or Ver Thunder inside of the fight here. If you don't have any sequence where a countdown is made and you have time before pulling the actual boss, never hard cast them. You have this dual cast ability, you have this dual cast mechanic inside the whole red mage fight or opener rotation, and you want to use that. Never use Ver Arrow or Ver Thunder as a hard cast, because it takes you 5 seconds to cast that just for some improvements of DPS and mana gain. So always use them as the consecutive spell that you use when proccing that dual cast ability. Okay, so as you can see, we're just getting close to that 80 mark, inside of that mana gauge, which will bring us back into the melee rotation again. Okay, and in between those, always after using your dual cast spell, use your ogcds. Never do that in between weaving something or casting something and then letting it follow from the dual cast trait or the dual cast ability. Okay, and as you can see, we're back inside of the melee rotation, which will lead us here, and we're using the appropriate spell, Verholy, and finishing with Scorch after that. And yeah, this is really your goal. Just do that whenever needed. And yeah, there's one little thing that you also have to take note of is when you use magnification the second time, there will always be some, you will always have some mana over that 40 mark, or actually over 50 sometimes, because with all these procs you have way more mana gain than when just using Jolt 2 for the time when you don't have any procs at all. So if you're, for example, don't have Verfire or Verstone procs, then you always use Jolt 2. For example, right now, you can only use Jolt 2 because you don't have a proc here, and you want to start something for having the dual cast proc to use it with Ver Arrow or Ver Thunder. And there will be the time, mostly after you used your melee rotation 2 times after the opener, after using the opener with magnification, that you land into something with more mana than you can actually use. Damn it. Maybe I will not look up this video on YouTube and check it out for my video player actually. But yeah, give me some feedback about the style of this video. I hope this will help you in learning that opener. And yeah, let me show you what I mean. Now we already have this 50-50 proc mana procs here, mana energy here, that will definitely be overcapped when you use magnification right now. But some sources do calculate that it's still worth doing, except you're reaching 60 or more than 60 on any side. But it really doesn't matter too much. Right now, here would be the point where it would be the optimal sequence of using magnification, but it's not ready. So we're having kind of a good flow of mana gain in that sequence, in that opener, or having some very nice procs until then. And this will always happen. Yeah, you can't avoid that. It's the common case here, and you will run into overcapping with magnification. But it's not so bad. Right now you can see I'm just hitting because the cooldown is not finished exactly. I could have waited, but that's really bad, waiting for that and skipping the timer here. And of course, if you're calculating, or if you're taking into account that this could be the end of the fight or the last time you're using magnification or using your burst opener, your melee rotation, you should definitely go for it. Otherwise, you could think about, I got something over 60 right now, and the other side is 60 as well. It could be a wasted magnification on this spot. But yeah, I think it's not so big of a deal. Just do it, and because it really lines up perfectly with your Embolden at this spot, so you should definitely get it into that, and don't waste Embolden for just using your normal ordinary casts here. But it's fine-tuning. It's not so heavy DPS loss if you're doing that. Just take that into account, that it's possible, and that you always have to think about these measures here. Okay, so yeah, we're finishing this by using our corp and our displacement, of course, and magnification will lead us to 100 on each mana gauge side. So yeah, by that we're starting back into a melee rotation and finishing off that fight with our insane burst, with our nice crits and the very nice flow on that melee rotation, which is always fun to do. And I think every red mage is satisfied by having the mana for this finisher here. And as you can see, this will finish up the fight against the dummy, or at least having one last spell left to kill it. Okay, so this is what you really need to take care of in that opener, and to be honest, it's really not that difficult. Just do whatever is required from the tooltips alone that teach you many things, and yeah, I highly recommend, when we're just looking at the gear section here, to always avoid skill speed, because spell speed, because it definitely doesn't help Red Mage in putting out more DPS. So if you can avoid spell speed, of course, if you have a very overmelded set like I have in that specific video, then it doesn't matter too much. Just go for it and nail the high item level and the many stats you can get out of this, because as you can see, we also have a very, very high critical hit rating, which is always powerful and increasing your DPS a lot. Okay, so here we are. I hope this explains the opener a bit more. If you want to have this as a scripted version, let me know inside the comment section. I'm completely open to any feedback. I will do this according to what you think is the best for learning that rotation. But of course, if there are many people that tell me, oh, now I understood that, finally understood that Red Mage opener, that would be awesome. And of course, then I will try to do the same for all the other jobs. Maybe try to shorten up the video a bit. But yeah, I think talking about all these specific parts is very important, and going into detail can only be done in such a video, talking only about the rotation and not about the job theory behind it. Yeah, thank you for watching. See you around in another video, and have a wonderful week, have a wonderful day, and keep loving Final Fantasy.